Hey guys, today we're going to learn how to play what's called broken chords, and I've got two riffs that I'm going to teach you how to play so that you can learn this method, and actually this is what you're going to learn how to play. Alright guys, so we're going to jump right into this lesson, but real quick, hang around to the end of the video for some tone talk. I'm going to share my amp settings for what you're hearing here. I do things just a little bit differently when I'm playing this style, when I'm playing these broken chords, so I'll go over that at the end of the video. Alright, so I'm going to break this down into three components. Two of those components are going to be the broken chord riffs. But the first component we're going to go over is I just want to quickly explain what broken chords are and just kind of show you how that's played and how we translate that, to the guitar here. But the first component is we're going to go over real quickly what are broken chords. Now, a broken chord, or some people call these arpeggiated chords because this is basically an arpeggio. What it is you're playing individual notes within that chord, okay? So think of like a sweep arpeggio. You guys know what that is. You're not playing a bunch of notes at one time, but you're playing a note on one string, then playing another note on the next string, and so forth. That's your arpeggio, right? Well, the chords, the broken chords, it's really the same concept. And let me show you what I mean. I'll take the first chord that we're going to learn in the two riffs that we're about to go over here. So listen to this. Alright, so you see how I played that just now? I didn't play the E minor chord. I didn't do this. No, I played the notes individually, right? I'd start with one and go right to the other. Now, I'm also, and we're going to use this technique here as well in the riffs that we're about to go over, I'm also doing kind of a light palm mute to get that effect, and this kind of gives it that 80s rock, 80s metal edge to me anyway. So that's really all a broken chord is. You're just arpeggiating those notes within that chord. Alright, so this first little broken chord riff or arpeggiated riff here is quite simple. We're in the key of E minor, but we're only playing two chords. We're playing the E minor, then we're going right to the D. But how we transition from the E minor to the D, the way we're playing this particular pattern here, it really simplifies the process, which you guys know I like to keep things as simple as possible when it comes to guitar. You take something simple, but you might make it sound a little bit more complex than what it is. I believe there's an art and a beauty to doing that here. So we're starting out with just a basic E minor, okay? And all we're doing is we're just starting from the high note going to a low note, and all we're doing here is just picking three notes out of that. We're going to be playing the B, G, and D string in that order. So that's all I'm doing here. Now, the little caveat here, and I mentioned this earlier in component number one when we were talking about what a broken chord is. What I'm doing is I'm adding a light palm mute to that. Okay, now I've got a certain little cadence that I'm playing here with this chord, so let me go through that part so you can kind of pick that up. Just like a 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. Now, after about the fourth time, I think it is, I go to the D, and I pretty much do the same thing, but I only do it once. I'm playing the B, the G, and the D string from highest to lowest there, and all we're doing there is this right here, and again you'll see the tabs up here. I'm kind of letting that one ring out a little bit, and by the way, you guys already know this who have been watching my channel for a while. This is not a real song here. I'm just making this up, not really as we go, but I just started playing this little riff, and I'm like, hey, this is going to make a cool video. Let me share this with you guys. So that's how most of, I'd say probably 90% of these videos are created. I just think of a riff and I'm like, okay, that'd be a cool lesson. I want to share it with you. So hopefully you guys appreciate that. But let's go through this. Again, it's a very, very simple broken chord riff here. Alright, so part two to this little riff here, the second time around, we actually keep things very, very simple, but what we're doing is we're starting from a C, the C chord, moving to the D, then the E minor. So think in these terms. Think in terms of bar chords. I should have mentioned bar chords earlier because that's kind of what we're doing here, but think C, D, E minor. So if we were to play the bar chords, it would be this. There's one little note I hit there on the E minor at the end, and of course I'll share that with you. So let's start from that C chord there. Again, I'm keeping it simple. I'm playing that, just those three simple notes, the B, G, and D string, and we're arpeggiating from high note to low note there. And in this case, you're just barring those three strings there on the 5th fret there. So pretty simple. It's just like how we played the D in part, I called it component 2, the first part of that riff that we just learned. So it's the same thing there. You're just barring those three notes. Then you're just moving up to the same position that you played the D in the other riff. Then the E minor. When I'm playing the E minor, I've got the same position as a regular E minor, okay? But what I'm doing for that last little part is I take my pinky finger off. My pinky is on the G string 9th fret. I take it off of that string and I place my pinky finger on the B string 10th fret. So you get this. Okay, I go from here. So that might be something you want to practice because that first part's pretty simple, right? Pretty simple. It's that last little part there that might kind of bite you a little bit, right? Because you might not be used to the style or just playing this chord and moving those fingers around a little bit. And sometimes I'll just end it just hitting the chord, right? I'll change the broken chord into a fixed chord as if it's really broken. Bad pun. Anyway, so I'll just do something a little different to change things up a little bit, or I may add that little 80s lick at the end. That lick is probably in like 20 80s songs, like both rock and pop. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in there. By the way, that's the B and the E string. That's frets 7, 8. Then you go to fret number 10 on the E string. That wasn't supposed to be part of the lesson, but we just learned a new little 80s lick in this broken chord lesson here. So let me go through this pattern one more time here, okay? All right, now real quick, I wanted to go over my amp settings, and I'm using a real amp here. I've got my EVH 5153, the EL34 tube version, but I wanted to share my settings with you on this because I do something a little different. There's just one setting that I drastically change when I can, when possible, when I'm playing riffs like this, sometimes if you're on stage it's not always possible, but what I'm doing here on my amp, you can see where my gain is. You see my low, my mids, and highs, those are pretty much par for the course for me. I like to keep my lows pretty much up the middle. I may shave them off a little bit if I'm going into the full mix, right? Because then you want to leave room for the low end, for the bass guitar and the kick and the toms and that sort of thing to carry the low end. You don't want your guitar carrying the low end. I like to cut my mids back, that's just personal preference, and my treble is usually boosted. My presence in this case is boosted just a hair, but let's go back to the key element of rock and metal music, and that's the gain. That's the major change here, okay? That gain is cranked. Man, it's cranked. It's not cranked. It's turned down. It's cut drastically here. The reason I do this is for one simple reason, and that's clarity, okay? I want clarity when I'm arpeggiating those notes. If you've got too much distortion on those notes or too much gain, that can produce a very muddy sound. You're going from one note to another note individually on a different string. You're bound to get some noise between those strings, okay? And when your gain is cranked up, you're bound to get more noise, and you want to try to reduce that as much as possible so that you can hear those arpeggiated riffs, those broken chords. I don't know whether to call them broken chords or arpeggiated riffs. Hey, I guess they both sound pretty cool. But I just wanted to share that with you real quick. I also had a little delay on that because that just gives it more of that 80s vibe, and that's kind of what I was going for here on this. So anyway, that's the settings. You could use those same settings with a plug-in or any amp. And really just the moral of the story here, or at least my story, the way I like things when I'm playing these broken chords, is just to turn that gain down so that you get the clarity when you're playing the broken chords or arpeggiated riffs. So guys, I hope you enjoyed learning how to play these broken chords. Although they're not really broken, they sound pretty cool. They sound pretty fixed to me. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Now, one thing real quick, remember, you don't necessarily have to play exactly how I played them. Play around with how you arpeggiate those notes. In other words, we started from highest to lowest. You don't have to do that. You can start from lowest to highest. You can mix and match. Just play around with the technique. Have that little palm mute in there, giving you that little 80s edge there. So I want you to play around with this, play around with different structures, and use this with different chords and progressions and such. And this is really how you become a better guitar player and better musician overall. You know, I want you to take what I'm giving you here, learn that, but then expand on it. That's really what I want you guys to do. I even say the same thing in my Metal Riff Master course, which here's my shameless plug. If you're not in my guitar course, Metal Riff Master, there is a link in the YouTube description. Start that now because it's an awesome course. We've gotten a lot of great feedback from you guys who are in the course. And thank you, by the way. So yeah, make sure you grab that and start that course now. Alright guys, so thank you once again. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave those in the YouTube comments, and I'll try to get to those. I try to answer most of those. It's getting kind of hard to now because the channel is growing, but I at least try to acknowledge your comment by giving you a like and heart and all that good stuff. On that note, if you see other comments in there, maybe you might have the answer to some of the questions as well. So feel free to jump in because this is a community. I don't really consider this Jason Stallworth's channel. This is all of our channel here because all of you guys, we're all in this together. So anyway, on that note guys, thanks for watching the video. Please give this a thumbs up, and until next time, keep it metal.